All right, just an update on that score there. Let's go to this now. The state of readiness for the ANC's elective conference and the Integrity Commission's Phala report are expected to be key talking points at the ANC NEC meeting in Johannesburg. SABC News political reporter Samkele Maseko is monitoring that for us this weekend, live from Nasrec, south of Johannesburg. Sam, a very good morning to you. Thanks indeed for your time. So, some key issues, including the Phala saga, expected to take centre stage in this NEC meeting. What do we know at this particular stage? There have been quite a number of individuals from President Cyril Ramaphosa's executive that have had words on this ongoing saga.
The ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa yesterday delivering his political overview starting this NEC meeting of the African National Congress, the first person-to-person meeting of the NEC since the COVID-19 pandemic. Actually saw the President of the ANC yesterday taking members of the National Executive Committee into conference on matters relating to Phala. One of the NEC members we spoke to saying that it is for the very first time that the President of the ANC has taken the NEC into his conference on what transpired, saying that this was a pure business transaction. ANC NEC member Dr. Nkosazana Zuma coming out strongly to say that if it was a pure business transaction, then why was the money put in the couches or the sofas of the president in his Phala farm? Also saying that the amount that is branded about by former spy boss Arthur Fraser, that it was $4 million that was taken at the president's Phala farm, saying that is untrue. It is indeed $580,000 that were taken from his farm, which amounts to about 9-10 million rands, as opposed to the figure being branded about by Arthur Fraser. But what is seemingly coming out is that NEC members are divided on this issue, particularly with the president of the ANC raising this matter himself, as opposed to the Integrity Commission report being tabled before the NEC meeting of the party. But he raised it in his political overview, which opened up a can of worms for ANC NEC members to deliberate on this particular matter, and for some to step up and say that he must step aside from his responsibilities as the president of the ANC.
Is there anything peculiar about the timing then of the ANC president raising this particular issue now, given that you have so many or some individuals, of course, within his executive? You've spoken about Dr. Nkosazana Zuma as one of those individuals who's spoken out on the Phala issue. Lindiwe Sisulu, also in a recent interview with political editor Mzwandile Mbeche, also speaking out on this particular issue. Is there anything peculiar about the timing of this, not forgetting as well that we're just a couple of weeks away, if I can say, towards the ANC's elective conference, and some of these individuals are running for certain positions or wanting to emerge in certain positions of the ANC?
It is no secret that the daggers are out within the ANC. All of them who are contending for the position of president have sharpened their knives and are ready to attack when it comes to pouncing on the vulnerability of the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa. But he himself is a shrewd and strategic and a politician who is very clear and who does most of his things with a particular timing. Just yesterday, the former presidents of the ANC, former President Mbeki, Zuma, Kgalema Motlanthe, they were not all in this meeting, as of course we do know that Kgalema Motlanthe is out in Singapore. Former President Mbeki was out in the Middle East. He came back yesterday evening. As soon as he landed, he came straight here to the ANC's meeting of the National Executive Committee, where he too was part of the deliberations yesterday afternoon of this issue of Phala. Even this morning, when the meeting reconvened at 9 o'clock in the morning, they started off from deliberating on the issues pertaining to Phala. But what we do know is that in about a few weeks' time, we do anticipate that that inquiry that is led by former judges in Parliament will be delivering their report on whether the president has a case to answer to or not. But the Integrity Commission of the party also made a determination that the president of the ANC must take the members of the party, the leadership of the party, the National Executive Committee, into his confidence on what truly transpired in his Phala farm, farm because it has diminished the stature of the governing party. So it is the ANC president, out of a ruling and determination of the Integrity Commission, that compelled him to take members of the NEC into confidence yesterday.
Are we away from this report, Samkele? And not to jump the gun or anything, but given that you've already said that the daggers are out, this could have, whatever the decision is, could either work in favor of the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa's campaign, or could be disadvantageous if the findings are against him, given that you have, as you've already pointed out, people, such key figures such as Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, who is speaking out quite blatantly about this issue. And given that it was the Integrity Commission that had said that the ANC president should take the NEC into his confidence, it was not done voluntarily.
He was never going to do it voluntarily, because you've heard him say previously that this matter is sub judice. The only previous times that he has spoken openly about this particular matter is when you go back to the Limpopo ANC Provincial Conference, where he said that the proceeds of game are the ones that generated those funds that were found and stolen in Phala, saying that he acts in the sale of game and trades within the game industry, and he generates no profit from that particular farm of his, which is a commercial farm, by the way, and has a farm manager. Even when those funds were stolen, in the words of the ANC president, he was out in Addis Ababa and reported the matter to Wally Rhoda, who is part of his head of protection. But also, on a very interesting note, the very same Wally Rhoda is said to be suspended. But we saw Wally Rhoda here yesterday. I even had an engagement with Wally Rhoda yesterday, who said that it's a myth that he is suspended on matters pertaining to Phala, and that he himself has disposed of his own affidavits detailing what transpired and what was his role in trying to figure out who burgled the home of the form of President Cyril Ramaphosa. So it is pretty much telling that the narrative of the issue and how it is being driven, it is now being controlled by the ANC president, but also very thin on details on what transpired. It's only yesterday where he detailed who is the one who brought those $580,000 to the farm in order to purchase those game animals, or those buffaloes, from his farm, which then brought about the questions from Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and his other political opponents within the National Executive Committee of the ANC. But historically, in the interviews that we've conducted with ANC NEC members, particularly with the suspended Ace Sekgobela Magashule, he said that the so-called CR faction is dominant within the National Executive Committee of the ANC, and it is very difficult to go up against a dominant faction, just like the faction of former President Jacob Zuma, when he was still at the helm of the ANC, was a very dominant force and a dominant faction in the National Executive Committee.
Samkele, you'll be monitoring that for us throughout the day. Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure we'll be crossing to you much later on in the day as well for any word, of course, coming out of that NEC meeting of the ANC. Thank you very much indeed.